What's up, guys? My name is TechnoTuner, and today we're doing a test hands on our Predaplant Genesys build to take a look and see what kind of hands we can get with this deck. While Predaplant has the main capability of looking into fusion summoning, the newer cards allow it to go into synchro plays, allowing it to Crystal Wing or Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Depending on your plays and how you utilize your tuners and your actual monsters, you can set up a decent board of a few negates or interactions for your opponent to be really mindful of how they play and how they're going to interact with this deck. Now, this deck is a lot of fun, has a lot of good capabilities for it to really pop off, and I do recommend you guys taking a time to check it out. Please note that if I do mess up, I'm sorry, I am human, and please feel free to call me out on those misplays. I need to learn, and I'm pretty sure everyone else in the community as well would appreciate knowing these facts as well, and I greatly appreciate to everyone that has called me out so far. But anyways, with this deck, we're going to have two test hands going second, and then the final one of us going first to show you what the deck can do. So let's go ahead and hop right in and see what our deck can actually put out. All right, so our starting hand is going to be one Predaplant Longophilia, one Ultra Polymerization, one Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit, another Predaplant Longophilia, and a Predapruning. Right now for Genesys, we only have the one interaction at Ghost Ogre. Let's see what our final draw would be, which is another Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. So this is perfectly fine. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Predaplant Longophilia. Utilize its effect to add one Predap card from our deck to our hand. In this case, we're going to go ahead and add the Predaplant Lizard. Since we control a Predaplant monster, we can special summon this card from our hand. So we'll go ahead and special summon it, and then add one Polymerization from our deck to our hand. We'll go ahead and utilize that. Adding a Poly from our deck to our hand, so we can fuse later on if we need to. Next, we're going to go ahead and utilize Ultra Polymerization here, fusing these two. We're going to pay 2,000 life points, so we're down to 6k. Our opponent cannot respond to this, allowing us to go into Predaplant Amblomedes, which will allow us to add a Predaplant or Predap card from our deck to our hand. In this case, we'll go ahead and add the Predaprimitive. With Predaprimitive, we do have further plays to go through, but we're going to instead start off with the Ultra Polymerization, banishing it to summon these two back out in defense position. Their effects are negated, their attack is 0. So we're going to synchro them off, since one's a tuner, one's a non-tuner, into our Predaplant Volatea. Predaplant Volatea, on summon, it discards Synchro Summon, special summon Predaplant, monster, or Starving Venom from your face-up, extra deck, and or graveyard. We're going to go ahead and bring back the Predaplant Lizard. Lizard, when revived back, we get to draw a card. So, when we draw another card, we get Predaplant Sacriant. So we have a decent hand here of at least 7 cards. Let's go ahead and utilize some of them. In this case, we're going to go ahead and open up with Predaprimitive to send a Predap card from our deck to hand, except Primitive, and add a Polymerization spell or Fusion spell from our deck to our hand. Then we're locked into Plant or Dragon monsters from our extra deck. So in this case, if we're looking to start it out, we can send an Extender, or we can send a trap card, which would be the Predaplanning, which basically is a banish this card from graveyard, target one card on the field and destroy it. But in this case, since we have the Predapruning in our hand, let's go ahead and utilize that a bit. We're going to use the Orphis Scorpio here, and then add from our deck to our hand a Harmonic Synchro Fusion. We'll next go ahead and activate that Harmonic Synchro Fusion, utilizing these two monsters, which is Predaplant the Lizard and Volatea, to go into our Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and let's see here. We can utilize this as well to go into our Starving Venom. The thing is, you won't gain the attack boost if you utilize that. So in the best opportunity here, so we can fill up our board with useful monsters, we can go into the Chimera Phlesia. Or if you really just want the board nuke for further plays, you can utilize the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. In this case, we're going to go Predaplant Chimera Phlesia. And since we utilize Baltea, we can banish one Polymerization from our graveyard and summon one fusion monster from our extra deck. If a monster is special summoned to our opponent's field, so we can do that during our opponent's turn. But we've already got the draw card. We're perfectly fine. But we have a lot of good opportunities here, so we're going to go ahead and activate the Predapruning to bring back the Orphis Scorpio. Orphis Scorpio effect, we'll go ahead and discard a card, in which we're going to discard probably... In best case, we would discard a dead hand trap. So we're going to discard the Moonlit Chill here to summon the Darlington Cobra. Darlington Cobra effect to get us a Polymerization or Fusion card. So we're going to get a... Yep. Add one Polymerization spell card or Fusion spell card from our deck to our hand. Notice we do have 5 cards on board now. Technically 6 with the Predapruning. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and grab us... We can grab a Super Duper Poly, a Predaprime Fusion, or a Super Poly if we wish to search that up. In best case, let's go ahead and do the Super Poly for our opponent's turn if we need it. Next, we'll go ahead and activate Amlamedes, tributing off the Darlington Cobra. We're going to go ahead and summon out the Predaplant Bilisp. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, we can add a Predaplant monster from our deck to our hand for the Bilisp. We'll next activate Polymerization, fusing away with Orphis Scorpio, Bilisp. And we can either do Amblymedes or Chimera Phlesia. And the reason why I say that we're utilizing 3 is because we're going to go into Trivotherium. Trivotherium. Ugh. I can't say the word. Instead, we're going to send the Chimera Phlesia so we can get the Polymerization back as well. But we're going to go into him. We have the fun part of Predaplant Bilisp. We can add one Predaplant monster from our deck to the graveyard since it was sent to the graveyard. And then, during the next standby phase, we can add back the Poly from our graveyard to our hand. So let's go ahead and add that one Predaplant monster from our deck to our hand. And what is it that we're going to add? Well, in this case, we can add the Clismandu for next turn, or we can add another Orphis Scorpio or Longophilia. In this case, I'm going to grab the Clismandu so we can fuse during our turn next turn. Gives us good opportunity. Predapruning is also in the grave now since that monster left the board. But we do have further extension here. So we can set the Super Poly. We have protection from the Biru. We have the Trivotherium. We have the Super Poly in the back row so we can fuse into something during our opponent's turn. The other cards that we can utilize here is we can banish Longophilia from our graveyard to set the Polymerization from our graveyard to our back row. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we can activate it fusing again. So activate Polymerization, right? So we're going to go ahead and Fusion Summon Amblymedes. And we'll utilize the Sacriant here. Or actually, better yet, we'll use the Longophilia. Go into Dragostapelia. So, we have a pretty decent board here right now. But, what are some other cards we can utilize here? Well, since we don't have the Draco Princess, we're kind of locked out of that. But we do have a discard for Super Poly during our opponent's turn, like I said. We do have the capability of summoning Sacriant when our opponent declares a direct attack, so we have basically a way around that. We have a negation if our opponent tries to go into anything with a Predator counter, but once per turn, we can target one face-up monster our opponent controls, place a Predator counter on it, and its level becomes level 2 or higher. Its effects are negated, and your opponent's monster of a monster that your opponent has that has a Predator counter on it. So we've already negated that. At this point, if we want to, we could Super Poly with that monster and say just another card, such as Dragostapelia, since we're going second, and going to actually, we could just go into Starving Venom, Fusion Dragon using these two during our battle phase. Send these, right? By discarding a card, we'll discard the Ghost Ogre. So we would have swing already for 3k, or however big Trevatherium gets, because it gains attack equal to the total original attack of all other monsters with a Predator counter on it. So you would have already boosted it with the Dragostapelia. When your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck while you control this fusion summon card, quick effect, negate the summon if you do destroy that monster. If your opponent controls a monster with a Predator counter, you can special summon this card from your graveyard in defense position. So we can go ahead and do that if we want to as well, which makes it even harder for them to really out and makes it even more funny. Now, the other factoid of this being is that we can still fusion summon into Starving Venom by using Predaplant Baltea during our opponent's turn. The monster is special summoned to your opponent's field except during damage step, right? We banish one polymerization in this card and then go into Starving Venom if we want to during our opponent's turn. But we do have more things here since we have a 3600, a 3k beater, because our opponent, we're going to assume we gave them a Predator counter. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you contribute one monster on either field with a Predator counter. If you do, negate the activation. If this fusion summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect or card, you can target one dark monster in your graveyard, special summon it. But either way, you could have saved the Super Poly for the battle phase and went into this to finish out game, because you can swing over 25, 27, 3k, assuming you haven't already placed a Predator counter. Clear Wing gains the attack of any level 5 or higher that swings into. You just quick effect fuse with these two. Go into that for even more damage with the Super Poly, discarding a card, which would be the Ghost Ogre in this case. And then during main phase 2, you bring back the Trevanthium, which makes it even harder for them to out. So that's another way to play this hand. Sorry that was a little bit confusing, just trying to put it all together. But let's go ahead and see what our next test hand can do, because we did accomplish basically OTKing in the mindset of this deck. All right, let's go ahead and see what our next hand's going to be. We're going to start with Predaplant Lizard, a Predapruning, a Predaprimitive, a Predaplant Longophilia, and a Princess Drachnia, the Thirsting Tree. We can set a level 4 or lower plant monster from our decks to the graveyard. It becomes that level, so we can start off a lot of things there. But since we're going second, we're going to draw into our Ghost Ogre. So let's see what we can do from here. Let's go ahead and start it out with Predaprimitive, to where we can send a Predap card from our deck to the graveyard. In this case, we're going to go ahead and send the Predaplanting and add one polymerization or fusion spell. In this case, we're going to go ahead and add that Ultra Poly. Next, we'll go ahead and do a few plays here. One in which we're going to go ahead and start out with normal summoning the Longophilia. Longophilia effect. We can add a Predap or Predaplant monster, or Predap card from our deck to hand, excuse me, not just a Predaplant monster. We can add a Predap card. In this case, we'll go ahead and add us sorry, trying to find the card here. I scammed over it like twice now. Okay, so in this case, we're gonna best add a Orphis Scorpio. Next, we'll go ahead and special summon our Predaplant, the Lizard. Special summon it, defense position. Effect to add a poly from our deck to our hand. In this case, we'll go ahead and add the regular polymerization. We'll go ahead and synchro for 4 directly into our Predaplant Baltea. Baltea effect to bring back the little lizard. The lizard effect to draw 1. So we drew into another Drachnia. So we have further plays we could do here. The question is, what do we choose to do? In this case, I think we're going to go Ultra Poly, pay 2k, fuse with these two. Go directly into our Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. And then we're going to go ahead and banish the Ultra Poly. Summon them back out. Their effects are negated. Synchro for 7. Get our Clear Wing. And then from here, we have a few more plays. We'll go ahead and special summon the Drachnia. Drachnia effect to send a Predaplant Bilisp. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard, we can add 1 Predaplant monster from our deck to our hand. But we do have the effect of Thirsting Tree here. Since it was summoned, it becomes the level of that monster. We can banish 1 plant monster and this card from our graveyard, special 1 dragon monster from our hand or graveyard. So we don't have to worry about that right now, but we can definitely get the Bilisp effect here to add a Predaplant monster from our deck to our hand. We're going to go ahead and add a Clismandu. Next, we'll go ahead and synchro with these two off into Crystal Wing. Next, we'll go ahead and utilize polymerization, right? Fusing Predaplant Orphis Scorpio and Clismandu. We're going to go into our Predaplant Amblomedes. We can add 1 Predaplant monster or Predap spell or trap from our deck to our hand. We're going to go ahead and utilize that effect to add us a Predap spell or trap, which is going to be the Predaprime Fusion. We'll next go ahead and activate Predapruning, bring back the Orphis Scorpio. Orphis Scorpio effect. We're going to discard a card, or send 1 monster, excuse me. We're going to send Ghost Ogre from our hand to summon out the Darlington Cobra, and Darlington Cobra to get us a Fusion or Poly spell or trap. In this case, we're going to go ahead and get us. We've already used we have not used Harmonic, so we could just get us a Harmonic Synchro Fusion here if we choose to do so. The other opportunities we do have is getting us a Super Poly, which I think would be a bit better in this case. We'll next activate Amblomedes, tributing off the Darlington Cobra. So the Darlington Cobra will then change into where'd he go? A Clismandu. We will utilize Clismandu effect to fuse it in Amblomedes into Dragostapelia. I know a lot of people are like, why are we going into Dragostapelia? Well, we do have the opportunity here to utilize Dragostapelia, as we can target a face-up monster our opponent controls and place a Predator counter on it. Once you do that, it negates its effects. We have Starving Venom, which has already gotten its attack boost, if I remember correctly. Yep, because we use Ultra Poly instead of Harmonic. Then we have Crystal Wing. All right. And then, since we have a monster with a Predator counter on it, we can bring out Bylisp from our graveyard. It's just banished when it leaves the field. We'll go ahead and activate Predaplant Fusion. Fusion summoning with these three monsters here to go into our Overtrum. Bylisp is banished, but it does trigger off Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, which basically nukes all our opponent's special summon monsters my opponent controls, which makes it even harder for them to really deal with. But we also do have the fun trigger in our graveyard of banishing Predaplanting and target a card on the field and destroy it. So whatever's left, we'll just do that. And we'll go ahead and activate Princess Drachnia effect, banishing it and one plant monster from our graveyard. So we'll banish it, and we'll just say one of the Clismandus. So we'll banish those to bring back out. We can either bring back out the Starving Venom, or we can bring out the Clearwing Synchro Dragon. In this case, we're going to go ahead and set up another negation with the Clearwing. It also gets bigger, which helps out a lot in the grind game. But right there, we have a decent amount of problems for our opponent to deal with. If we want to, we can go ahead and use the Longophilia effect, not to place the polymerization back, but place a predator counter on another monster if there's any on board to make Overtrum even bigger. And then we have the Super Poly, because Predator printing would be in the graveyard. During our battle phase, we can activate Super Poly, fuse off Trivothrium and Dragostapelia if we still haven't finished out game, to go into our Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon, which makes it even harder for our opponent to out, but it's still a 3600 beater, which would be for game at that point if they haven't already died due to Crystal Wing, Clear Wing, Dragostapelia, and Trivothrium, which is a real problem for them nonetheless. But we went through all cards in our hand to really even get that far. While this does offer up a lot of OTK power, that was still a really good hand nonetheless. Let's go ahead and see what would happen if we did go first and what kind of board we could set up to further interact with our opponent. All right, let's see what our final hand is going to be. It's a Predator Primitive, which is already really good starting out. A Predaplant Sacrian, an Effect Veiler, a Ghost Warner Moonlit Chill, and a Orphis Scorpio. All right, let's go ahead and start this off with a Predator Primitive. Utilize the effect here. We're going to go ahead and send us a Predaplanting to add us a Longophilia. If I can find, or sorry, not add a Longophilia. Add one Polymerization Fusion or Spell card. So let's see here. Okay, in the best case here, we're going to go ahead and add, if I can find it, where's the Ultra Poly? Ultra Poly. We are locked into plants and dragons now. That's perfectly fine. We'll go ahead and normal summon Orphis Scorpio effect, discard, and then we're going to special summon from our deck. In this case, we're going to get Longophilia effect. Since it's normal or special, we're going to grab a little lizard, and then we're going to go ahead and special the little lizard. I know there's a lot going on here, but it's perfectly fine. We're going to take the Longophilia and the little lizard, go into Baltea effect. We're going to go ahead and revive back the little lizard to get us an extra card draw. We draw into another Orphis Scorpio. Okay, pretty funny there. The other option you could have done was the Longophilia. But from here, we're going to go ahead and activate the Ultra Polymerization, utilizing Orphis Scorpio and Little Lizard. Or we can't, actually. Yeah, we can. My brain just broke. I thought it was harmonic for some reason. We're going to summon out Amblomedes. And then we're going to banish the Ultra Poly, so we're down to 6k, remember that. And summon back the Lizard and Orphis Scorpio. Their effects are negated. Do remember that. But we're going to go ahead and synchro off with these two into our Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Then we're going to utilize, I forgot, we do have Amblemedi's effect to get us a Predaplant monster or one Predap spell or trap. So I did miss the timing on that. So before we even do this, right? So once fusion, before these two get to come back for off the ultra polymerization, we have the effect to add a Predap card. We're going to add the Predap Pruning. But yeah, basically here at this point, we'll take these two, go into the Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Then we're going to use Predaplant Amblemedi's effect, attributing off the Orphis Scorpio to summon another Predap or Predaplant card, monster specifically. In this case, we'll grab the Clismandu. We'll use the Predap Pruning. Bring back the Longophilia. And then synchro with these two. Just takes the Predap Pruning with it. Into our Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. We can utilize these two to go into our Dragostapelia. Or yeah, we're kind of sitting here with Crystal Wing, Amblemedi's, and Clismandu. We can utilize Clismandu effect here if we wish to. In which case, I think we're going to have to go into our Dragostapelia or our Chimeraphlasia. In best case, it would be one of those two. If we're looking to do something else, we'll just do the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon using these two here, because we do have opportunities to pop Starving Venom during our opponent's turn, but we also have an Effect Failure and a Ghost of Mourner Moonlit Chill for our recovery for our opponent's turn, but we have a negate and basically a pop due to the Predaplanting in our graveyard, which allows us to target a card. Banish this card, target a card on the field, and destroy it, so we can pop our own Starving Venom if we need to. This can give us even further protection from just popping our opponent's spells or special summon monsters. We have Crystal Wing as a monster negation, which helps out a lot. And then our next turn, we just draw a polymerization, where if we have the capability, we can bring back some cards. If not, we can still fusion summon during our opponent's turn, using monsters from hand or field with Predaplant Baltea once they special summon by banishing a polymerization and this card, since we don't have the polymerization in graveyard, so that'd be a bit rough. But we would still draw into the poly. We'd be sitting on a little bit more of a rough hand going first, but you do have further capability nonetheless with the negation effects of these two, which hurts your opponent a lot. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for today's test hand video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.